Hey, this is Rob for another edition of Horror Pop After Midnight. I hope everybody's having a great week. On tonight's show, we're going to talk about the horror film The Black Phone, and also we're going to be talking about a forest in Japan where it's well known for suicides. So stay tuned. Now, let's get into The Black Phone. It's based off a short story by Joe Hill, who is the son of Stephen King. So writer-director Scott Derrickson, who has done a lot of films from The Exorcism of Emily Rose, Sinister, and Doctor Strange, and he teams up, with his best friend, C. Robert Cargill, who helps him write the film. And C. Robert Cargill has done a lot of great reviews and films, and he was also part of that, website, Ain't It Cool News, and they got together. And also, it has Ethan Hawke, who stars in it. He's the child abductor called The Grabber. And it's been the year of the villain for Ethan Hawke. I mean, he's been doing a lot of, villainous roles, from like Sinister to Disney Plus' series Moon Knight, now The Black Phone. Well, this film starts off in 1978 in outside of urban, Colorado, and it's all these kids heard these rumors about the grabber who grabs these kids and they mysteriously disappear. And it talks about Finney, this young boy, he's like been bullied on and picked on. And then he also has a sister, Gwen, which I'm going to tell a little bit more in this review. Before they did the film, Ethan Hawke at first didn't want to do the film because he didn't want to play a role wearing a mask, being like a child abductor and killer. He didn't want to have nothing to do with that. So when he found out about the young actress who's playing Finney and Gwen, he changed his mind because, he did the film Sinister with Scott Derrickson. They have that great tight relationship and that great chemistry when they did Sinister together. So now let's get back to the review. So it talks about Finney, he's getting, picked on by everybody, and the sister's sticking up for him, Gwen. So finally, one day, Finney was walking home, and you see this black van coming towards him, which is driven by the grabber. And then all of a sudden he sees this van pulls up, and then sees all these black balloons start flying out of the van. And then he sees, the grabber, trying to do like a magic trick for him. So he sprays him with some kind of a pepper spray and knocks him out. So the next thing you know, you see him waking up in this basement from the grabber's house. And it's like empty, but there's like a bed mattress. And then right above him is this black phone. There's no cord hooking to it. And, the grabber is sitting there like tormenting and scaring young Finney, trying to make him do some stuff so he can kill him, Like one instance, he left, the door unlocked. And he did that with his past victims. If you go up the stairs, you'll see him sitting in the kitchen wearing a mask with a belt. And if you get out of the basement into the kitchen, he sits there and beats you to the pulp. Well, now, Finney starts hearing this phone ringing, and it's all the, past victims of the grabber who he killed. So each of the victims come out and give him clues how to escape from the basement and the grabber. They show him certain clues what they did, where they're trying to escape. One boy, who was there, dug this hole in the ground from the basement, which, he told Finney. So Finney started digging it. And then there was another kid who, told him to try to hop the window, which was too high up in the basement. And then there was another kid who was killed, who had a combination written on the wall, which was the combination from his bike lock, which was locked on the grabber's front door, so the victims couldn't get out of the house. He, at first he was freaking out, Finney, and he didn't believe all this. And Finally he started listening to these ghosts that were trying to help him get out. So he does everything in his will to try to get out from all the clues which the victims give him. And the cool thing about these past victims, you get to see a little origin story about their life and how they were, abducted and then murdered by the grabber, which is kind of neat because, you see these like victims. You're like, okay, who's these victims? But Finney knows who they are. So now let's get back to his sister, Gwen. She's the MVP of this film. She's been having these like psychic dreams that she can't explain, but they always end up coming true. And before she sleeps, she always prays to Jesus, help her get these visions. So she started praying to get these visions because, she was trying to find these dreams to find where her brother was, kidnapped and missing. So she kept on getting these visions of these past victims, which would be giving her clues to find out where her brother was held at the grabber's house. So she was going by these dreams, and and it led her to the right place. And then before that, the grabber also had a brother which was really airhead. He didn't know he had young Finney in the basement. So he was trying to think he was like a detective trying to solve all these missing kids, what happened to him. And he had like this big map in the grabber's house because he didn't know his brother was the grabber. And he was trying to figure out where all these missing kids are. And then, two together, he, finally finds out. But, he something happens to him, but I'm not going to get in detail. You need to watch the film to find out about that. So Gwen, kept on using her psychic abilities. And I wish they would go more into the film to describe how she got these abilities and, how she found out she really had them. But they went only in a little detail about her, father, who was like an alcoholic, and he was always mean to Finney and Gwen because, the death of his wife. And he kept on telling, his daughters, like, you don't have these dreams like your mother did. It talks about her mother having it, but doesn't really get into detail about it. So finally, Finn, he starts setting up traps. That's his only way to get out. He finally, gives it to the grabber what he's well deserved, and then the cops find him, and then they see the grabber murdered. And the film kind of reminded me of Criminal Minds without the FBI agents and True Detective. The music was like very eerie in the movie, and it gave you the feel of the film, where it's, kept on making you thinking. And there's a lot of jump scenes where there's a couple times I've jumped, but I give the Black Phone 3 stars. And there's also rumors that Scott Derrickson talked to Joe Hill about possibly doing a sequel to the Black Phone, which I can see they can do that. Probably be a different killer. It could be a different killer, or they can go wherever with it in that universe, which I hope they do. And Scott Derrickson in the interview said, Joe Hill's like real private and he doesn't like really want to share his stuff or rights. But I hope they do a sequel to the Black Phone. It was a great, well-written film, a great cast. And I love how they spin it off of Joe Hill's, short story. And I wonder if Joe Hill liked it. So I'm kind of curious about that. But the Black Phone's worth seeing. Go check it out. Ethan Hawke is great. He's creepy and sadistic, and it just makes you want to hate him. And he's freaky in that demonic mask, man. That demonic mask scared me. But that's my review on the Black Phone. So go see it at a theater near you, and then eventually it'll come streaming too. But I really enjoyed it, and I saw it when it first came out. I went to a special screening of it before it was shown, started showing into regular theaters. But it was really good, so check it out. Now I'm going to talk about let's go to Japan. There's this forest in Japan. They call it the Sea of Trees. And it's at the foot of Mount Fuji, the highest mountain peak in Japan. And the forest is called Aokigahara. I can't pronounce that. It's like a forest right outside of Mount Fuji. And the creepy thing about this forest is it gets like very eerie and creepy because the trees are grown so close together. There's semi-darkness in the forest, so like when hikers like hiking it, it's so dark and the trees together in the forest, it's creepy. It reminds you of like walking into a horror film. And also when you walk, what they say when you walk into the forest, there's no sound. Picture you being in the forest or air, there's no sound. You don't hear no animals, nothing flying above you in the sky, no creeks, no rivers running. It's just straight silence. And I can see, that can make a person, kind of go messed up in the head and scared if they're walking and hiking, in the forest by themselves. There's a lot of hikers that, walk through there. And there's also stories that hikers would get off trail and they would see like ripped clothing laying in the forest. They would see moss covered like shoes, tennis shoes. They would see phones, suitcases, cameras laying all over the forest, not wondering how they got there. And some even say they see corpses laying in the forest too. And a lot of the Japanese authorities would go through there, once in a while to comb the forest to see if they find anything. Sometimes they don't find anything at all, which is a really great mystery. It also has the most suicides in the world in any location. Then second would be the Golden Gate Bridge, and of course, Niagara Falls. But it has the most suicides. So authorities put these signs around the forest before you enter in it. And the signs say, please reconsider and think carefully about your children, your family at entrance, because they don't want you to go into this forest with, thinking your life is horrible or having negative thoughts, because they're afraid if you do that, the forest and all that darkness will consume you to make you go crazy and, commit suicide. There's been stories where lovers went out there and, killed each other. In 2010, there was 247 attempted suicides in the forest, but only 54 people completed it. And they said the most suicides that were killed by people were either by hanging, and then drug overdose was a close second, which is crazy. I couldn't do it. I mean, I like hiking into different forests and all that. If I'm going to Japan, I'm going to visit all the other beautiful stuff. I'm not going to walk in that forest. And, and they also says that there's something like demonic about it too, like spirits of past victims also, trying to put these bad thoughts in these people going, through the forest as well, which I think is, pretty interesting. And I knew that Golden Gate Bridge had a lot of suicide rates because people jumping off the bridge, but I never heard of this suicide forest. How I found out about this was I was watching a show on Netflix, had William Shatner, and it was called The Unexplained. And they had an episode where they talked about this, and I go, this is pretty interesting. I wouldn't mind, doing a podcast about that, about a suicide forest in Japan. They said it's like real beautiful. There's hikers that go in and they come out just like normal, because I guess they have the happy thoughts. But most of the time when people go into that forest, they don't come back. And then authorities have found, dead bodies in little mini rock formation caves where they go down there and see the victim dead. And they're always, combing that forest to see, to get some of these dead bodies out, or, try to help somebody so they don't commit suicide. And I think that's sad how people do that, because today you really don't know what's going through, people's, minds and stuff, And if you know anybody, that's going through that, you can try to help them, but they have to take your help, because you can't really try to change somebody's mind. Or you can also try to, get them help. There's suicide, hotlines and all these great, facilities that you can reach out to if you know anybody that has, trying to commit suicide, and I wish that on nobody. I hope everybody who's in that situation, thinks real hard, prays about it, and gets help. But yeah, I had to share about the suicide forest. I mean, Japan has a lot of, folklore and urban legends, and a lot of horror, that's why they make all these, creepy horror films, which makes great. But yeah, suicide forest, that's very interesting. If there's any urban legends or any, myths of stories that you heard that you wouldn't mind reaching out to me and for me to do some research and talk about it, you can message me at horrorpopaftermidnight@gmail.com, which would be, awesome. But the next, film I'm excited about too is Thor Love and Thunder. I so can't wait to see that film, because it's going to be fun. Chris Hemsworth, man, him being ripped and all that, and then Jane Foster becoming Thor just based off the comics. I'm looking forward to seeing a fun, Marvel film, because, it's going to be fun, Thor and the Guardians of the Galaxy. Who knows, maybe Loki will pop up, which I think would be cool. So when I go see Thor Love and Thunder, I will definitely do a review, and then have another interesting story after my review, like I did on, tonight's show. We talked about, go see Black Phone with Ethan Hawke. I think it's the best, horror film out there right now. And it got certified on Rotten Tomatoes 100%, but I usually don't go by, Rotten Tomatoes, reviews. I like to go see a film for myself and judge it to see if I like it or not. But go see it. It's really great. And, check out online and do more research about the suicide forest in Japan. It's creepy, scary, and learn from it as well. And like I said earlier, if you know anybody who has thoughts about their life's not going anywhere, reach out to them, be a good friend to them, be there for them, or give them some help to help them, so they don't end up killing themselves. Also, thank you for listening to Horror Pop After Midnight. Like Horror Pop After Midnight on Facebook, hit the follow button. And also message me on there to see what you want me to do next. Also subscribe to my YouTube channel, Horror Pop After Midnight. I do some great videos, and subscribe to it and see what I do next. You'll really enjoy those. And or if you like on Twitter a lot, you can follow me at Twitter Pop After, and also at Instagram at Horror Pop After Midnight Podcast. And you can listen to my past episodes on Horror Pop After Midnight on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Horror Pop After. You can listen to Horror Pop After Midnight at Podcast City Network at podcastcity.net. And you can also listen to me every Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, roostershamilton.com, Rooster Radio, where you can, hear me every Thursday, talking about my love for geek culture, horror, and all that great fun stuff. Also, you even follow me on TikTok. I have some, funny TikTok videos too, which is at Horror Pop After Midnight. And I didn't think I would ever get onto TikTok, Rooster, he's probably listening to this going, Rob, why are you on TikTok? I was like, I don't know why I'm on TikTok. But yeah, and I also want to take a shout out to all my listeners who listen to my show, who subscribe to the podcast, and who follows me on social media. I appreciate it. I thank you. And I hope you join my journey where I can share some more great content. And like I said, hit me up at horrorpopaftermidnight@gmail.com, or hit me up on Facebook and, tell me what you would like to hear on this great podcast that you've never heard before, or something that you want me to talk more about that people's talking about but never gotten to, real detail about it. And everybody, have a great week. And this is Rob signing off.